Hello, welcome to Decision 2018. My name is State Representative Robert Martwick, and I'm the host of this show, which is designed to provide judicial candidates with an opportunity to display their qualifications for judge. The show does not endorse any candidate, but is designed to give you, the viewer, an opportunity to become more informed about the candidates running for judicial office so that you can make better decisions. Thank you for joining us. Today, I'm joined by candidate for judge, Tom Sianis. Tom, welcome to the program.
Representative, thank you for having me here today.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell the viewers who you are.
So my name is Tom Sianis. I'm running for Cook County Circuit Court Judge. I worked at the State's Attorney's Office for a number of years. I worked in the Child Support Enforcement Division, domestic violence, criminal sexual assault. I worked in felony review, done hundreds of bench trials, jury trials, and numerous jury trials as well. Now I head up the Illinois Securities Department's Enforcement Division, and what we do there is we regulate investment advisors, people who sell securities in the state of Illinois. In my division, what we do is we work on cases where people have suffered financial fraud, namely elder financial abuse, and I was also working as a special prosecutor for the Attorney General's office. I work right now for Jesse White, and that's my champion behind my campaign, and my family owns the Billy Goat Taverns in Chicago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite. So my next question was going to be, how does all of that experience, and that's quite a bit of experience, how does that prepare you for being a judge? I think I'm most interested to hear how the Billy Goat Tavern prepares you for being a judge. I'm kidding, of course, but
sure.
Tell us about how that experience has prepared you for this.
So running for judge, the first process is getting qualified and recommended by the bar associations, which I did. And it's a vetting process. You go through all your trials you worked on, attorneys you went in front against, and judges you went in front of, and make sure you're a qualified candidate. Before I decided to run for judge, I want to make sure I was qualified by the bar associations, which I did. After that, based on my record as a prosecutor and being a litigator, my next step is in public service is to run for a judge. I think it's the most honorable profession as an attorney to get to, and being in the public, working with people, working on cases where you can make decisions. That's what I wanted to do. That's why I'm running. The Billy Goat Tavern has been my family business for a long, since 1934. So
wow.
I worked with a lot of customers. I worked in the family business from flipping burgers right before I went to law school, and I continued to do that as well. I work with a lot of customers, work with people that we work with, and that has given me a different perception on quality, on life, and the people that we work with. So that is the aspect I'm taking to the bench as well, being able to listen to cases, listen to people, and make the proper decisions.
Gotcha. That's fantastic. And, we talk about your qualifications and all, that's wonderful, but really what we need to do is as we're on this program, we're talking to viewers right now who are hopefully going to walk into a voting booth, and they're going to see all these names of people running for these offices that they've seen all these TV commercials on, and eventually they're going to get down to the bottom of the ballot and they're going to say, who are these people, right?
Yeah.
And so we're trying to inform them. Tell those viewers why it's important that they need to pay attention to these races. What is so important about these judicial races?
So the public, obviously votes for top of the ballot, from the governor's race, the attorney general, the secretary of state's office, and then Waters Reclamation District, and eventually to the judges. So what I tell people is the most important races are, in my opinion, the judge races, because as a public, the only time you're going to get in front of somebody that you've elected is a judge. I mean, you're not going to be able to talk. I mean, some people may, but you won't. For the general public, they're not going to go to the governor or the secretary of state or the attorney general themselves. But the first time they'll get in front of someone they elected is a judge, and you can have your life is really at their hands, whether it's a traffic ticket, evictions, or God forbid going to 26 California. It's important to have people who are up there who are experienced, who know the law, and who follow the law, and are qualified and recommended by these bar associations, because it's a vetting process. You want to make sure you get the right people on that bench.
Right. So where can people find more about you?
So my website is tomsianisforjudge.com. You can see my ratings, you can see my qualifications and my experience. And my email is tomsianisforjudge@gmail.com. You can look at that as well. I do have a website, a Facebook page, Elect Tom Sianis for Judge. You can follow me on Facebook. It's a county-wide race, so we're all over Cook County. We travel from Evanston to Thornton Township to Rich Township to throughout the city.
It's a big county.
It's a big county. It's over 5 million people, and running county-wide, you really experience different types of people all over the Cook County, and it's great. It's a process where you can get in front of people and speak to them and hopefully get their support.
So, Billy Goat Tavern. So I'm a Chicago baseball fan. I'm just curious, what part did you play in The Curse?
Yeah.
Putting it in or lifting it?
Yeah, I'll be really brief on the story, but it's kind of fun. My great uncle in 1945, he had a pet goat, and he would take this goat to different events. And in 45, the World Series against the Tigers. So he walked into Wrigley Field with his goat. He had 2 boxy tickets, him and his goat. And he brought it for good luck. The Cubs were winning 2-1. But it started raining in the 4th inning, and the goat started stinking up. And the people were complaining, it's the World Series. So the Andy Fran ushers back then said, hey, Bill, you got to get out of here. The goat's stinking up, people are complaining, you got to go. So he leaves, he gets kicked out, and as he's leaving, he writes a telegram to P.K. Wrigley saying the Cubs will lose this World Series because you offended my goat, and it will never go into the World Series ever again. So they lost that World Series, unfortunately, in 45. And for 71 years, the curse of the Billy Goat has been on the Cubs. But I do have to take a little credit. In 2016, we had a reverse the curse party at the original Billy Goat on Michigan Avenue, where we brought the bell that was around the 45 goats, that was hanging from his neck. So we brought it out. A little ceremony. We had a few players there, old people, from old teams in the Cubs. And we had a reverse the curse party. Of course, in 2016, the Cubs won the World Series, and the curse has been lifted. I'm not saying that's why I'm running, but it's a little bit. It's off our back. The Cubs won the World Series.
Listen, when you're trying to run a race, whatever helps, right? Yeah. So we'll give you the World Series victory. So Tom, thank you very much for taking the time to join us. To learn more about how, when, and where you can vote, go to www.elections.il.gov. My name is State Representative Robert Martwick, and I've had the pleasure of being your host here on Decision 2018, a forum for digital candidates. Thank you for watching, and make sure you get out and vote. My guest today is candidate for judge, Jonathan Clark Green. Jonathan, welcome to the program. Thanks for coming today.
Rob, thank you very much. Great being here.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for judge.
Well, I'm running for judge because I care about the rule of law. In the present situation, we really have to be aware of that, make sure everybody's treated with respect, no matter what your background, your religious faith, your economic status. I think it's very important, and I was raised, my father was on the bench for 25 years, my mother was an attorney for over 50 years, a pioneer woman attorney, only one of 3 in her class of 48 DePaul Law School, only one that went on to practice law, and I had the honor of practicing with her. So I'm very sensitive to those issues and making sure everybody gets a fair shot and treated equally in court, and that's one of the reasons I really want to run for judge and make a difference.
Oh, that's great. So tell us a little bit about your past experiences, your qualifications, and how that, what about should the viewers know that they would want to support you?
Well, qualifications, I know. It's really important. I mean, it's important to look at all the judicial candidates to make sure they have backgrounds, qualifications. I've had over 30 years of legal experience. I've worked in the legislature. I've worked at the Attorney General's office. I've been in private practice for a number of years, and then I've been with the City Corporation Counsel's office. I've had a number of jury trials to verdict in both federal court and state court. I've had a whole host of diverse legal backgrounds, all the courts I've been in, as well as international law background, even where I began. So I think it's very important. I've gotten ratings from all the bar associations, recommended or qualified.
You tell us about that process a little bit.
Well, they really grill, as well as the party slate, the Democratic Party slate. They made sure all of us sat down, looked through your background, your experience, your jury trial experience perhaps, and your diversity of experience in a number of different courts and things. And with the bar ratings, they go through everything, your whole background, make sure that you really have shown ethical standard, as well as your experience in the court and what other people, your adversaries even, how they feel about you. So with that, it was really nice, and actually for 10 years I've received all qualified or recommended ratings from all the bar associations, so I appreciate that.
Wow, that's good to know. And what would you say about that extent? You have a pretty extensive background there. Yeah. What about that would you say is uniquely, makes you uniquely qualified to be a judge?
Well, I think with the actual background, I've been both in the private sector and the public sector. So I know the attorneys coming from government agencies and the attorneys who are working in the mom and pop operations or the large law firms, what their backgrounds are, as well as working with a number of pro se, meaning people who are representing themselves, making sure they're taken care of and get the information they need. We have access to justice programs, which I'm very supportive of, and would like to continue to support them on the bench.
Oh, that is great. What other things do you want voters to know about you? What are the, we're sitting here, right, and I've been saying this as I've talked to other candidates. People walk into the voting booth, and it's a long ballot. There's a lot of races on there. Yes. And you start making your way down, and the further you get down, the less you tend to know about the candidates. What is it about you that you want voters to know that will make them want to keep going down to that ballot and get to those judicial races?
I appreciate that, Rob. One thing, I think I represent the diversity of Cook County well. I'm half Jewish, half Polish Catholic, married Italian, so I think I represent at least some of the diversity of Cook County. I've also had some very unique personal experiences that I think I bring to the bench, and compassion. I have a brother and sister who are developmentally disabled at Little City Foundation. I've been on the advisory board for a number of years there. I grew up with the organization. I'm the sole guardian of my older brother and sister now, so I'm aware very much of all the concerns people with family with special needs. My brother's in Special Olympics. I think that really grounds me well in approaching the bench and people who appear before me. I think my experience with my mother's practice and my father on the bench also has helped. And like I said, my international law background, I've worked with attorneys, government officials, and a number of others from a number of countries and their legal backgrounds, and visited their court systems. And so we are great. What makes America great truly is our immigrants here bringing in their cultures and traditions from all around, and I think that has to be reflected in our court system, and respect for that as well in the court system.
That's great. I think that I'm an attorney myself, and I think when people walk into the courtroom, they want to know that the person sitting up on that high bench with those black robes on is someone who understands the challenges that they deal with. So I think that those are some of those personal things in your life are something that really will help you.
Well, I appreciate that, and of course I'm very supportive of the restorative justice system efforts of the Chief Judge Tim Evans and others, trying to make sure people get a second chance too for nonviolent offenders. And I think there's a number of programs internationally. I think we can do it here as well, and I'm supportive of that and look forward to it.
That's great. Where can our viewers find out more information about you? Where can they research and read a little bit more about you and inform themselves?
Well, our website has a lot of information, and also information on where to vote, early voting as well. It's www.jonathanclarkgreen.com, my name across the board.
Okay. Do you have a punch number?
Punch 127.
Go to heaven go to heaven by
punching 127.
I like that. I like that. Right. All right, last question.
Sure.
Favorite type? Who's your favorite musical artist?
Oh man, my favorite musical artist. There's so many of them. Boy, I saw Bruno Mars with my wife.
Bruno Mars. All right, we'll
that
go
was
with
pretty
Bruno
good.
Mars.
But I like a diverse background. My wife is very good at that, and we love going to concerts. And
fantastic,
as well, so.
Fantastic. A little something for our viewers to take home with them. Thank you very much, candidate for Judge Jonathan Clark Green. Thank you for joining us. My name is State Representative Robert Martwick. To learn more about how, when, and where you can vote, go to www.elections.il.gov. Thank you for joining us on Decision 2018. Make sure that you vote, and you vote informed. My guest today is Judge Peter Michael Gonzalez. Judge, thanks for being on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's nice to have you here. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for judge.
Well, I was a practicing attorney for 23 years. About 3 months ago, after being vetted by the Illinois Supreme Court, I was appointed to a vacancy. So I've been sitting in traffic court for the last 3 months, and it is the best job I've ever had.
Wow. And you know, that's interesting because I think that when we think of judges, when your average citizen thinks of judges, it's those sorts of experiences, walking into traffic court, where you're going to find your first judge. And
Yeah, for elected officials, we are the most likely elected official you're ever going to have contact with. And, you know, it's kind of interesting with everybody being in your courtroom. You really see how nervous and worried people are when they're approaching. And my job is to try and disarm the situation, greet them with a good morning or good afternoon, and make sure that they are treated fairly and kindly in my room. And they walk out of there, maybe they agree with my decision, maybe they don't, but they were treated fairly when they were in my room.
I think that is important. Tell us about being appointed by the Illinois Supreme Court. That's no small...
The Illinois Supreme Court goes through a vetting process. We are evaluated by all the various bar associations in the Chicagoland area. And after a couple of interviews and a few meetings, I was appointed by Supreme Court Justice Charles Friedman. And that was just one of the greatest accomplishments of my career.
I imagine. And congratulations on that appointment. I think that says a lot. So, you know, when I talk to judges, I tell them often that our viewers are going to walk into those voting booths on Election Day, and they have all these names. And they're going to start out with all these people who are running expensive TV ads. They're going to start working their way through a very long ballot. At the end, there's a whole bunch of names of a lot of people running for judges. Why is it important that we get those people to continue to inform themselves and make good decisions about judges?
Besides the fact that we are the most likely people that they're going to actually come into contact with, it's important because we are the backbone of the system. We're one of the 3 checks of government. And especially nowadays, if you look at what's going on with our presidency and the legislature, it seems like the judiciary is getting to be more and more important as an additional check on what's going on.
That's a good reason to make sure that we make good decisions when we vote for judges, no doubt about it. So you've been a judge for 3 months now.
That's
is that
right.
That's fantastic. So tell us a little bit about what do you think are the biggest challenges to being a judge? What have you found in those first 3 months?
One thing you don't realize when you get on the bench is that everybody's staring at you. They are focused on everything you do, whether it's the cufflinks I'm wearing on a certain day or any move I make. So, you know, you are on display when you're in that room. And my goal when I'm sitting on the bench is that I want to make sure that everybody understands the process. We try to explain the abbreviations that we use in the court lingo. I make sure that if there's any questions, I'm patient and take some time to answer them. And you want to make sure that everybody's treated fairly because that's what we're there to do.
So that... I know it's a big job, and that sounds like a pretty challenging thing, but what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it? What have you found in those first 3 months? What do you like about it most?
You know, being able to see people smile when they leave my courtroom, know that they were treated fairly, you know, just you can really see everybody's reactions to everything you do when you're in there. And also with the sheriffs and the clerks that we work with, which are invaluable to us. And, you know, we really work together as a team along with the state's attorneys and the public defenders that appear for me on a consistent basis. It's really a team effort to make sure that we get people in and out of there as expeditiously as we possibly can.
Can you tell us a little bit about your legal background, what brought you to this point?
I was practicing law for 23 years. I started off as a Cook County public defender. I did that for about 9 years, and then I went off into private practice. While I was in private practice, I also worked part-time as an administrative law judge doing unemployment benefit hearings. So it gave me an opportunity to get some decision-making experience under my belt before I came to the bench.
That is good. And again, another thing where people might run in contact with you, unemployment, that is
absolutely
an important role. Where can people find more out about you as we encourage our viewers to get out there and inform themselves?
Well,
you have a website?
Yes, we have a great Facebook presence. It's the Committee to Elect Peter Michael Gonzalez. We also have a website. It's gonzalez4judge.com. Gonzalez with the number 4 and judge. and it's punch number 145. And we are working really hard, and I have a great family. I have 2 young boys that are 18 and 15 that are making sure that all their high school classmates that are eligible to vote actually get registered to vote.
That's great.
And, I wouldn't be here today without the support of my lovely wife, Dawn, who's been my campaign manager and partner throughout this entire process.
That's great. How about a fun one for our viewers? Tell us something about your personal life that we wouldn't otherwise know about you, something interesting.
I've been an actor. I've done a lot of, I've done plays. I've also done some TV. In fact, even a movie.
Really?
Porky's Revenge, Porky's 3 was shot at my high school back in 1985.
Wow.
And I was in that movie. Actually, the scenes I was shot in ended up on the cutting room floor, but I did get paid for the work.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us today. That is Judge Peter Michael Gonzalez. And to learn more about how, when, and where you can vote, go to www.elections.il.gov. My name is State Representative Robert Martwick. I've had the pleasure of being your host here today on Decision 2018. And make sure that you go get informed and that you walk in and make good decisions when you vote. Thank you very much for joining us. Judge, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me.
My guest today is Judge Orrin F. Whiting. Judge, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Good to
Appreciate
have
it.
you here today.
Nice to be here.
Good. So tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for judge.
Well, I am running for judge because I want to continue serving the people of Cook County. Look, the people of Cook County deserve and expect an experienced, diverse, compassionate, and competent judiciary. And I think I bring that, and I think the Illinois Supreme Court recognized that when they appointed me.
You know, that is, I think, an important distinction there. So you're running for judge.
Yes.
But you're already sitting as a judge because you were appointed by the Supreme Court. Tell us about that process a little bit.
Well, I was appointed by the Supreme Court last summer after 30 years of practice. And it's interesting when you get the call, you have to make a decision whether you're going to leave what you're doing to join the bench. And to me, it was natural. I was on the bench before, and I'm glad to have the second opportunity to get back on the bench. So you get the call, you get sworn in, and you get to it immediately.
Well, tell us about that. You said you practiced law for 30 years. Tell us about your legal experience and how you think that serves you as a judge.
I think my legal experience serves me well. I was the first African-American lawyer hired at the world's largest law firm. Ended up making partner at my second law firm 2 years early, and then the fun started, as I think, because I was asked to go down and serve as counsel to the Speaker of the House. I did that, and then the governor appointed me to the Illinois Court of Claims. Did that for 9 years, and then Secretary of State Jesse White appointed me to his hearing officer corps. I did that and was asked to serve as chief counsel for Mercy Hospital, then went back into private practice and then got the call from the Illinois Supreme Court. So I have got the experience from all sides of the bench and the judicial process.
So that is, you said, all sides of the process, including even the legislative, which I think that has got to serve you well.
Definitely.
What skills do you think are the most important to becoming a judge?
I think experience, compassion, temperament, and what is kind of lost in this society, it seems today, is common sense. Mm-hmm. You got to have the experience. You have to have the foundation. You got to know what you're doing. You have to know the law because you have to apply the law to the facts. Once you do that, to me, it should be simple. If you're a compassionate person, I've got a uniquely broad perspective on this. I was born on the west side, I was raised on the south side, and I was educated on the north side of Chicago. So I bring a uniquely broad perspective to the bench. And I think that's important, and that makes me more compassionate because I get it, and I understand the various ways of thinking. And I think it's good to be able to understand the people who appear before you.
That's great. So how long have you been when were you appointed by the Supreme Court?
Not that I recall specifically, but it was at 7:46 in the morning on July 27, 2017.
So that's not too specifically.
Not too specifically, no.
But you've been sitting for some time now.
Well, yeah, I guess it's coming up on 6 months,
Yeah, that's
plus or
great.
minus.
What about that experience? And you said that you had a previous stint on the bench. What do you find most rewarding about being a judge?
You know, what's most rewarding about this is having the opportunity to teach. It's not all about prosecution or making the experience miserable. Look, I'm in traffic court right now, and the key objective is to keep people safe. And so I'm not trying to jam anybody up. I'm not trying to fine anybody. I'm trying to make sure that the streets are safe. And every once in a while you get someone who did something wrong but genuinely believes that they didn't. And if you can teach that person, look, yeah, you may have skills over and above everybody else, but you can't do that because somebody may not be expecting you to do what you do. And so teaching that person to think more broadly is really a valuable part of the experience.
No, that is great. So the challenge of running for judge is that people are going to walk into that ballot and they've got to get through all of these high-profile races with all the TV ads. They got to make their way all the way down to the bottom of the ballot, and they have to be informed. And one of the ways that we in the legal society have decided that we would give voters confidence about who they're voting for is the Bar Association evaluations. Have you submitted to that process?
I have submitted to several processes. I am endorsed and slated by the Democratic Party. There are 12 bar rating associations. I have been rated unanimously positively by all of them. 4 of them have given me their highest ratings possible. I have the highest ratings of any candidate in my race.
Oh, that's fantastic. Where can voters, as they try and round out their information, where can they find out more information about you?
My website is easy, www.judgewhiting.com.
That is a good one, and so I encourage voters to go learn more about Judge Whiting, and of course, to learn more about how and when and where you can vote, go to www.elections.il.gov. That's the State Board of Elections website. Before we break, Judge, tell the viewers something interesting about you, something that they'd be interested to know about you that they might not otherwise know.
Well, there are a couple things. One, I'm a car guy, love cars. I'm a watch guy, love watches. I'm a frustrated pilot and an aviation nut. I love aviation history. Went to school in Madrid to become fluent in Spanish, and I'm trying to keep that up and just trying to have some fun.
That's fantastic. So I want to thank you very much for taking the time to come here today and let the voters learn a little bit more about you. I want to thank all the viewers for watching. My name is State Representative Robert Martwick. It has been my pleasure to be your host here today on Decision 2018. And make sure that you inform yourself and make good choices when you vote this election.